If you've been trying to think your way out of anxiety and it's not working, there's a biological reason. Your brainstem does not speak English, it speaks sensation. I'm Jill, and I help midlife women find freedom by working with their nervous system, not against it. And today I'll be sharing 3 ways that somatic movement, the language of sensation, creates nervous system healing, taking you through the immediate moment of panic right through to the long-term healing. Let's start by looking at 3 stages of regulation: the right now, the release, and the rewire. First, let's talk about the immediate rescue. Say you wake up at 3 a.m. and your heart is racing and you're in a cold sweat. We cannot think or will this biology to change. We can, however, influence it through movement, or more specifically, somatic practices that flip the biological switch. Our breathing and our heart rate, for example, are directly related. So if our heart rate is up, our breathing is also up and sporadic. We can influence heart rate by speaking to the diaphragm, which is a muscle. And while the diaphragm is largely on autopilot most of the time, it also has the capacity to take input from how we instruct it. So, for example, we can negotiate with it to slow down by lengthening out an exhale. A good example of this would be the physiological sigh, where we inhale for 2 and then exhale. And that lengthened exhale sends a signal to our nervous system and to the stress response to start taking a back seat. Now let's talk about what happens in the middle, where we need to release and clear stuck stress in our body, cleaning up the residue essentially. So take a moment and just visualize with me what it feels like to hold a brand new baby, and they feel like a wiggly and jiggly fluid-filled sack. We as adults, and especially in midlife, are no different. We are made up with the same biology. We just lose touch with that wiggly and jiggly fluid-filled sack sensation because we have so much stuck stress in our systems. We have coping and masking layered onto us, self-imposed to get through the day. So we actually need to release and clear the layers of stuck stress to get back to that wiggly, jiggly, fluid-filled sack state. So some examples of this in terms of somatic practices could be things that are just really intentional and gentle, and maybe natural movement patterns, for example. So things like rocking and swaying and bouncing, all are great ways to introduce a little bit of a movement nudge into your system without overwhelming it, and with very kind of different intent than full-blown exercise or doing nothing at all. So here's an example of me swaying, and it is just a really clear example of that middle ground of clean somatic movement, where we're trying to find feel-good sensation in our body and experience movement through a fresh lens to actually make a change in our body system and move the stuck stress through. Finally, we have the long game, which is about much more than just finding calm in this moment or clearing stuck stress in the middle. It's really about widening the scope so that we can respond to life rather than react to triggers as our default. If you take a moment and think about the practice of staying with sensation in your body, that really is a practice. So it's very unkind and not even empathetic or compassionate to ourselves if we expect to show up to life and expect our nervous system to be in a calm and responsive state when we haven't practiced what that state even feels like in a less high stakes situation. So somatic movement practices really are about practicing being with ourselves, practicing being in our body, not disassociating or numbing out, and practicing the physical side as well, building capacity with things that are a little bit more exercise based by nature. That could be balance or core strength or basic strength or flexibility or mobility, but it's done in such a way that has a connection back to creating more continuity, more connection, and more regulation within yourself rather than dysregulation. So if you think about this really practically through your midlife lens, how this applies to your real life, you want to be able to show up and do what you need to do in a way that feels integrated and connected. And for me, that means showing up to teach, to share, to hold space. And that's really hard to do if I'm not attending to my own body and my own practices. You don't need to analyze your anxiety away. True regulation happens in these 3 stages. The rescue to find safety and calm, the release to let go of stress and tension, and the rewire to build future capacity. So just take a gentle breath here and let that all land. Your body is not broken. Your body is not broken. It's just been waiting for you to speak the right language. And now that you understand why you can't think your way to calm, I want you to feel the difference. I've left a video for you on the end screen. It's a 10-minute guided practice that uses these exact principles to shift your nervous system immediately. So thank you so much for joining me. Take care and bye for now.